So, let's fry some pork. This is Chashu. We need to pierce through the meat. We can add a secret ingredient. Let's knead the meat well. To complement this rich dish, it's best to serve something light and fresh. It smells amazing. Look at that beautiful color. Delicious.
Itadakimasu.
Hello, I'm Fujiwara Yoshi. Today, I want to share a recipe that will appeal to everyone, from the youngest to the oldest in the family. Fried Chashu pork. This dish has an incredibly tender, even gentle, slightly sweet taste, and will surely be the highlight of your table. It's truly delicious. But before we begin, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Thank you so much. So let's get the pork fried. What do we need? Of course, a nice piece of meat. I recommend using the shoulder, specifically the part closer to the neck. You'll also need ingredients for the marinade: sugar, salt, ginger, garlic, soy sauce, and a little bit of whiskey. But first, let's prepare the meat. Here, I have about 400 to 500 grams, a portion for 2 to 3 people. The amount of marinade we prepare today can be used for a piece weighing up to 1 kilogram. However, for a larger piece, the heat treatment will need to be slightly adjusted. I'll show you how later. Be careful before marinating. It's very important to pierce the meat with a fork. This is how we pierce it through from all sides. This will help the sugar and spices better infuse the meat. Now, place the pork in a ziplock bag. If you don't have one, any airtight plastic bag will do. The main thing is to make sure you can tie it tightly so that it doesn't let any air in. Next, add the sugar, 150 grams, which is just the right amount for 450 to 500 grams of meat. You might think, wow, that's a lot of sugar. If it were salt, such an amount could really lead to a disaster. But unlike salt, sugar doesn't penetrate the meat as deeply. So don't worry, the sauce we make from the marinade won't be overly sweet. Now, add salt. Seal the bag, remove the air, and thoroughly knead the meat for about 5-6 minutes. Then you need to leave the pork to rest for about an hour, so it can absorb the flavors thoroughly, just like that, carefully and thoroughly. Don't refrigerate it. At room temperature, about half of the sugar and salt will dissolve. Let's imagine an hour has already passed. I won't wait any longer. I'll tell you what to do with the marinade. Next, add grated ginger, about a teaspoon, and the same amount of grated garlic. This isn't a strict rule. You can use just one or even skip both. We add soy sauce, 100 milliliters for this amount of sugar and salt. Now that you've mixed everything, you can add the secret ingredient that will enhance the flavor of the marinade. What is this ingredient? Sake, wine, or even vodka. Personally, I think whiskey pairs well with soy sauce, so that's what I'll use. You don't need to buy an expensive bottle just for this recipe. Any whiskey will do since we're only after its aroma. 1 tablespoon is enough, but since it smells so good, I'm adding 1.5. This won't hurt the dish at all. With all the spices added, seal the bag and refrigerate for 3 to 4 hours. 3 being the minimum. Ideally, leave it overnight. Here's one I marinated yesterday. Look at how it's changed in just 1 day in the marinade. You can see it's become much firmer and brighter. Don't discard the marinade. We'll need it later. Now it's crucial to pat the meat dry. If the piece is too moist, it won't be able to brown properly when we fry it. Use a paper towel to blot the meat from all sides. This will ensure a beautiful golden crust when frying. Time to start cooking. We'll be frying on medium or even low heat. Add a little oil and place the meat in a cold pan. Here's an important tip. Fry the meat slowly for about 15 to 20 minutes. Carefully flipping it, we brown the pork on all sides. If cooked on high heat, the outside might burn while the inside remains raw. So, be patient and slowly fry the pork on low heat for 15 to 20 minutes. If the sauce starts to burn or the oil concerns you, wipe the pan with paper towels to remove the excess. In Japan, we usually handle food with chopsticks, but you might find it more convenient to use tongs. They work just as well. Fry until you get a nice golden crust, which takes about 8 to 9 minutes. The meat will look like this. Beautiful. If you have an oven, you can sear the pork first. Then wrap it in foil and bake it at 180 to 190 degrees Celsius for another 15 to 20 minutes. Professionals usually do it this way, but today I want to show you that this dish can be made using just a frying pan. It's been about 15 minutes now. And you can see the meat is coated with a delicious crust on all sides. The corners are especially well browned. Now, you can either leave it in the pan covered with a lid or, even better, wrap it in foil and let it rest for about 15 minutes, equal to the frying time. Frying for this amount of time is just enough to prepare a light salad for this meat and the dressing for it. For the salad, you'll need about 200 grams of cucumbers and 150 grams of leeks. For 2 servings, this will be enough. Everything needs to be sliced thinly. Usually, in a restaurant, I use this slicing method, but it requires a certain skill and can be a bit dangerous for beginners. So, I suggest you do it the easier way. This method is much better suited for home cooking. First, cut off a bit from the side so the cucumber doesn't roll around on the board. Once you've stabilized the cucumber like this, slice it into thin horizontal strips. Now, chop it into thin strips. You can see, it's much easier this way. This is just a simple salad, so the slicing method isn't that important. The leek can be sliced this way, just like chefs usually do. But at home, this takes too much extra time. So you can just slice it into strips diagonally. That's it. The chopped vegetables will be soaked in cold water for a short while. Everything, by the way, including the cucumber and onion, will mix together perfectly if you stir them in the water. I always do it this way. Well, the salad is practically ready. To keep the vegetables crispy, just soak them for about 10 minutes. In the meantime, we'll prepare a very simple but delicious dressing. With such a rich dish as pork, it's better to serve something light and fresh. So I've chosen a light dressing with sesame oil. For this amount of vegetables, we'll take about 1 tablespoon of oil. To the oil, add vinegar. The approximate ratio is 2/3 of the oil's volume. So, in our case, just under 1 tablespoon or 2 teaspoons. Now, add sugar and salt. Honestly, I'm used to measuring everything by pinches. You'll need between 1 and 3 pinches of sugar and salt, depending on your taste. 2 pinches are roughly equal to 1 teaspoon. Now add hondashi. You can use either Japanese or Chinese. It doesn't matter which one you find. Just go with that. Add about half a teaspoon. It might seem like there's not much dressing, but trust me, for this amount of salad, it's just the right amount. So, I've given the pork 15 minutes to rest. Now, pour the marinade into the pan, and we'll fry the meat again, but this time in the marinade. You can see how beautiful it already looks. Cook again on low heat, and if possible, pour all the meat juices into the pan as well. The pork should be constantly turned, and the sauce in the pan should be stirred. As a result, the meat will caramelize and become incredibly delicious. But don't forget to lower the heat as soon as the sauce starts to boil. As you can see, this white foam has formed, so you need to reduce the heat even further and cook for another 5 minutes from this point. The temperature is really important. On high heat, the meat can easily burn. I promise to tell you how to cook a large piece of pork, 1.5 kilograms or even more. If the meat weighs less than 1 kilogram, you need the same amount of marinade, but it won't be possible to cook it through. The piece will be too big. So after you've browned the meat on all sides, you need to put it back in a zip bag with the remaining marinade and boil it in water. I'll show you how it should look. Now, place the meat in boiling water. Imagine that it's boiling. There should be enough water to completely cover the piece of meat. Make sure it's level with the meat. And then cover with the lid. But please, place the meat only into the boiling water. That's important. Let it cook for 2 minutes, then turn off the heat and leave it in the pot for half an hour to finish cooking. This way, the pork will be very tender, juicy, and incredibly delicious. But for my piece, which is smaller, it's enough to use a frying pan. The meat has been simmering for about 4 minutes. It just needs a little more time. But before turning off the heat, be sure to taste the sauce. Does it taste good? Everything's fine. Don't worry. The sauce isn't as super sweet as you might have imagined at the beginning. It's more of a salty, sweet flavor. The sugar has turned the marinade into this kind of sauce. Now either leave the meat covered or wrap it in foil and leave it to rest for a while. You can even leave it in the sauce. Gently shake off any excess moisture from the cucumber and onion. Don't squeeze them, as this will help the dressing enhance the flavor of the vegetables. Place them in a bowl with the dressing. Now you can taste and add spices to your liking. soy sauce, sesame, a mix of peppers or whatever you enjoy. But the salad is already very delicious. I'll add just a drop of soy sauce for extra aroma. And that's it. Our salad is ready. Well, 5 minutes have passed. Let's see how it turned out. Now, slice the meat thinly. See how beautiful the color is? Today, I sliced it thinly, but at home, we usually just cut the meat into pieces with quick knife movements. You can do it however you like, but I find thin slices to be more aesthetic. However, this doesn't affect the taste. Now, let's add a little honey. Honestly, the Japanese don't usually do this. But in China, they love drizzling honey on the meat. And it really is delicious. As a small accent, let's add just a bit of black pepper. And of course, the sauce. So today, we made Chashu pork. And here's the final result. The meat is tender and juicy with a slightly sweet taste. Try making this at home and experiment with different serving styles. I look forward to your comments. Now, you know how to cook authentic Chashu pork.
いただきます。